Hi, my name is Evan Archella, and I'd like to walk you through some tips and tricks for Microsoft Excel 2010. This is primarily for those of you who are upgrading from Microsoft Excel 2007. We're going to look at the product today in a couple of different ways. We're going to start off, first of all, just by talking about the user interface and some of the changes that you need to be aware of in terms of just getting started with Excel 2010. Once we take care of that, we're going to look at the rest of the presentation around a core group of 3 scenarios. We're going to talk about bringing your ideas to life. So how do we move Excel beyond just straight numbers? How do we make our spreadsheets more dynamic, more interesting, easier to pull information out of? We'll talk about working together more effectively, how we share our information and co-author spreadsheets with other people. And we'll look at that actually in the context of something called Excel Web App, which gives you anywhere access to your work by allowing you to work on your Excel spreadsheets within the context of the browser. And you also have Excel Mobile 2010 as part of Windows Phone 7. So let's look at a demonstration here. We will spend a few minutes in the Excel web app today, as I mentioned, being able to view, create, edit files in the browser. If you have Windows Live SkyDrive, which is a consumer-based account with your Windows Live ID, if you have SharePoint within your company, or if you are a subscriber to Office 365, you will have access to the web app functionality. Let me get the demo started here. I again want to just reiterate, this is for those of you who are upgrading from 2007 to 2010. We do have demos for those of you coming from 2003 to 2010, so I would encourage you to take a look at those, as they actually span 2 versions worth of features and functionality for you within the context of those demonstrations. This is Excel 2010. And you can see across the top here the ribbon interface. And if you were a user of 2007, this is going to look pretty familiar to you in terms of how you work within the context of the interface. There are a couple things to be aware of in terms of changes. One of those is the File tab here. You may recognize this as being in the same place as the Microsoft Office button in 2007. That's been replaced with the File tab, which takes you into what we call Backstage View. Backstage View is going to have all of your spreadsheet management tasks basically in one place. So you're going to see on the Info tab things like document properties, things like permissions and sharing. We'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation. You'll also see the New tab, where you'll see all of your new available document or spreadsheet templates here, other ones you can download from the Office website, and the Print tab, which will give you not only your print properties, your print settings, but also a print preview within the same view of what that spreadsheet is going to look like on the printed page. And so it gives you a combined view of the elements that you're looking for when you think about going to print a document. Under Options, it's going to open up for you the Options dialog, and what I want to show you here is actually Customize Ribbon. So in the previous version of Excel, within the 2007 version, you didn't have the ability to really customize the ribbon. You can customize it now. You can do so in a couple of different ways. If you just want to rearrange the tabs and the command groups within those tabs, you can do that within the context of this, but you also have the ability to create your own tabs with which to gather some of the commands that you use most frequently. The way you do that is simply hit New tab, and I'm going to rename this tab. I'm going to call it My Tab, just to designate it as a custom tab. And on that tab, I'm going to have a group of commands, and you can add additional groups as well. I'm just going to call this one Favorite Commands, and give it an icon associated with it. So if I ever resize the window down to where I can't see the commands, I can see the icon, and I can click that to access the rest of the commands. Just kind of a visual cue there. Rename that, and now it's just a matter of basically selecting the commands that you want to put on that custom tab. So I'm going to grab some things that actually typically appear on different tabs, just to give you a sense of how this might work. So let's take the Insert function, and let's also grab our Paste options and Table, and let's add these over onto that custom tab. Now you can also see down here at the bottom I have an import export command. So if you're building custom command tabs for your team or something that you want to share, you do have the ability to export that out and then have someone else import it back into their Office to be able to take advantage of the work that you've done in terms of customizing those tabs. Let's click OK. Jump over to my tab, and you'll see now I have a custom group that I've created with those specific commands that I added to that group. Now let's flip over for a second here to my Q4 tab, and I'm just going to grab a column's worth of information here, copy it, come back over here to our sales report tab, and we're going to paste it into this new column. Before I do, though, I want to talk about something called Paste with Live Preview. So in the past, in 2007, if you hovered over a gallery of like different styles or font options, you would see a live preview within the document itself of what that change is going to look like before you actually apply it. That has been extended now to the paste functionality. So if I come over here to the new paste drop-down that I've added, as I hover here, what you're going to see is it's going to paste basically according to the live preview. So it lets me know what's it going to look like if I just simply paste this information, if I paste the values of the information, or if I just paste the formatting, for example, within the context of this. So I can see as I hover exactly what that paste is going to look like within the context of the document. So what I want to do here is just a traditional paste. So I'm going to just plug in both the numbers and the formatting into that spreadsheet. Paste with Live Preview is a new addition to the interface. The backstage view that we talked about and that ability to customize those tabs are all ways that the user interface in 2010 has been enhanced. Now I want to talk for a few minutes here about some of the other elements of Excel. We're going to look at that concept of bringing your ideas to life. We know Excel's about numbers a lot of the time. How can we make this easier to visualize this information, to get more out of the data that we're working with? So I'm going to walk you through a few ways that you can think about this. So let's go to the Data tab. I'm going to turn on a filter. And you can see the filter is pretty familiar to you across the top there. One of the ways you can use filters now, though, is if I want to sort A to Z, Z to A, for example, you can see all my different checkboxes here from what I want to filter on, but I have a lot of filtering options in this sheet. So you can see we have a new search field here that allows you to actually search your filter criteria. So let's say I'm looking for sauce, for example. It pulls up all that search criteria that relates to sauce. So I can click OK and just go ahead and filter on that information. So if you have a lot of items within your filter categories here, being able to search that information will really save you a lot of time when it comes to filtering and looking for information within a spreadsheet. Let's go over here to another cell. You can see I've got some quarterly data here. I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and I want to show you this area called Spark Lines. Spark lines are basically mini charts that you can put in at the cell level. So for example, if I wanted to see a line chart for this product over these 4 quarters, I can select the data and I can get a visual representation of what our sales growth or lack thereof was during that particular time frame. So you can see I have a Spark Tools command tab up here with other options for me, and if I just drag this down several rows here, you can see each one is reflecting for me the actual realities of that data that's associated with it. So I'm able to use a spark line to get a sense of what's happening within any given group of cells. Let's go over to our pivot table tab. This is a pivot table, and in 2007 the interface for pivot tables was tweaked into this the task pane view that you see here on the right hand side. So that was already done. Some further enhancements that were made here. For example, you can see I have a pivot chart here. You can actually now pivot your table on the chart. So if I wanted to click on salesperson here and look at a particular salesperson, I can do that within the context of the chart, not just the table. So I can come back over here and select all again, and we can refilter that chart. So you can pivot the chart, you can pivot the table in both interfaces. Another new example here for this, and I'm going to take this chart actually and just move it out of the way to its own worksheet tab, so that we can come back and have a little bit more workspace here for what I want to show you next related to slicers. I'm going to click inside the pivot table here. I'm going to insert what we call a slicer. So a slicer is another way to represent the data within the pivot table, and it gives you a very easy way just to basically slice through that data and really mine for exactly the specific information that you're looking for. So let me insert the slicer. For the slicer, what I want to include is the salesperson, the customer, and the product in this scenario. I'll click OK. And you can see instead of the task pane view that I'm going to use to navigate this particular pivot table, I'm going to use the slicers. The slicers are represented here by these three boxes, and what they allow me to do is basically just start slicing through the data. So let's look for example, all of the sales related to our sales rep Devolio. And let's look at a certain customer that they work with, and let's look at a certain product that they're selling. I can slice through all the layers of data and get down to exactly that information that I'm looking for. And it's just as easy to back out of it by clearing out the different slicers that we're working with and kind of get back up to that top level view. Now these are our salespeople. And I can navigate through their data, but I think it might be interesting if I could actually see our salespeople and kind of get a sense of how they're structured within the organization. So let's come up to the Insert tab, and let's go ahead and insert a picture that I have of Ms. Devolio here. We're going to bring her in, and she's one of our top sales reps. I'm bringing in a picture, and I want to bring in pictures of all of the other sales reps as well, so I can start to kind of put a face to the name. But bringing in the image itself is not necessarily the best way to do this. So I'm going to actually take her photo here, and under picture layout, I'm going to turn this into a smart art diagram. And we have one here for hierarchies. And in this case, what I'm going to do is just put in her name, and I'm going to tab over. Let's say she's a sales manager. So I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to kind of build out an organizational chart that includes some other salespeople that report to her. So you can see I'm beginning to build out this diagram, this org chart a little differently here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And what I want to do now is, you can see, because this is a picture layout smart art, it's very easy to come in and let's just grab some images of the other sales folks and be able to bring that in. And I'm also going to put on a bit of a 3D effect onto this, so it kind of looks like some buttons kind of hovering off the page a little bit. And let's also just kind of click off that information so you can see what that chart would look like. Now I could build this out with the other salespeople. I could divide it up maybe by east and west and do some other things. I could change the layout, but it allows you to basically bring in different types of graphical elements within your spreadsheets that will show you information related to that data and help you just have a deeper level of impact with that information. Let's take a look now at some other capabilities. I need to close this file. And a lot of times when we close something, we may be a little bit click happy on the mouse, and we don't necessarily read the options, or we accidentally hit don't save. You've probably done this before, where you didn't save something before you closed it, or maybe you lost power, you didn't have a battery backup, and wherever you were, that's basically what you lost. And with 2010, if I just fire the spreadsheet up again, if I go over to the Backstage view, you're going to see versions, and you can see this one says when I closed without saving. Your autosave functionality within Excel, I think typically the default is around every 10 minutes it's going to do an autosave. You may want to reduce that to like 5 minutes or whatever makes the most sense to you. But however frequent that autosave is, when it hits that time period, it basically takes a snapshot and autosave of your file. So if you close without saving, or if you lose power or whatever else, you can use this capability to get back to that last autosave version. So if I click this, I have the opportunity here to restore it. So if I needed to restore this up as the most recent version, it was the last autosave that I had, I can do it. Now you'll notice there's some things I'm going to have to redo here, because if it's taking an autosave every 5 or every 10 minutes, I'm going to have to repeat that 5 or 10 minutes worth of work, but I'm not going to lose everything, which is certainly a possibility when you're starting a new document and you get a couple hours into it and you realize you haven't saved yet and something goes wrong. So you're able to get back at least to a fairly recent point in time. Let's talk about a couple of other capabilities here as it relates to anywhere access to our work and working more effectively with other folks. So I'm going to go back into the Backstage view here for a second and go over to Save and Send, and I'll show you a couple of buttons here. Save to Web is one of them, and Save to SharePoint. You can basically save directly to your Windows Live SkyDrive if you have a consumer account, or to your SharePoint site if your office is running SharePoint internally. You can save directly from within the context of Office. It's typically going to do it as, you'll notice here this says save as, so it's putting a copy out in that location from which you can begin working on the online version of the file and begin using that as like your primary version. A couple things to point out for you here. When you put that out on an internet-based location, whether it's the SkyDrive or the SharePoint site, you can access it through what we call Excel Web App. What you see here is the read mode of the Excel Web App, and essentially what I've done is I've gone out to my SkyDrive, I've gone out to my SharePoint folder, and I've clicked on the document, and it takes me into the read view of the web app. Now I don't need Excel installed locally to be able to do this, but you can see that it looks very much like my original spreadsheet. All the formatting and everything, it's a very high fidelity view of that information. Now if I click File, you'll see I have a File tab within the context of this. You'll also notice that I have a Find button, so if I need to look for specific information within the context here of the read view, you can see that I can do that through here as well. In the browser, you'll also notice an Edit in Browser button, so you can go from the read mode into an actual edit mode. You can see here the ribbon. It should look very familiar to you across the top with the different tabs available to you there as well. Let's look at a couple of other things here. I can obviously work within this view, so let's just change the contents of this particular cell. So you can edit your cells, you can be able to work within that, but also you'll notice at the bottom here I have a little pop-up that says Sanjay Patel is now editing the workbook. If you're working on this in a shared folder, so if the SkyDrive folder or the SharePoint folder is shared with other people, if they come out and they go into that spreadsheet, you're going to be notified that they're also working in the spreadsheet, and you can co-author with others at the same time. You don't have to wait your turn to get in and out of a file. You can do it simultaneously through the context of this co-authoring mode that's available to you within the web app. You see the notification appears down here. If I click it, it'll actually tell me who's in here. So Karen's the account that I'm using now, but Sanjay has joined in and he's going to start editing this information as well. And you'll notice my active cell here is I2, but if I just go ahead and click off of this, if you kind of keep an eye in this area, you'll see Sanjay is editing his cells on the other side. So I have this cell locked for editing right now because I'm in it. But if I'm not in a particular cell, they're open for other people to be able to come in and make the changes that they need to make. Now, Sanjay's doing this within the context of the web app. You can notice now it says one person editing, so he made his changes and he got out. So I'm back to being the sole person within this document. I can open it in Excel and be able to take advantage of additional capabilities that might not have been available to me within the web app itself. And you'll notice it opens in protected view. So anytime within 2010, if you open a file from an internet-based location, it's going to place it by default into protected view. And in that protected view, you're limited from editing. It's basically a way to keep you protected from sources that you don't necessarily trust. And it could be things in this document that are dangerous in terms of viruses or what have you. So it puts it in that protective view until such time as you trust the source and you can enable the editing. So now I can begin to edit this document and work on it just like any other Excel file that I have. Let's look quickly here at one other element of this. On the File tab, you will see I have some information here for Sanjay. He's an author of the document, and even though we can't do the co-authoring in the full version, only in the web app, if I'm in here working and I did have a question for Sanjay about this, because he is listed as an author here, I have the opportunity of either emailing him, chatting with him, scheduling a meeting, and other things that I can do by pulling that presence information through the application itself. And what you're seeing here is basically powered by something like Microsoft Lync or Office Communicator, other instant messaging types of applications that can be connected here and allow you to communicate freely with each other while you're working within the context of these documents. Let's go back over to our first presentation here. Just want to summarize what you've seen today. We've talked a little bit about getting started with Excel, some of the things to know about the ribbon, the ability now to customize it, add your own custom tabs and groups, the ability to paste with live preview, and also that backstage view that brings all of that spreadsheet management, the document management capability into one place for easy access to anything that you might be doing related to that side of the spreadsheet. We talked about bringing your ideas to life. We looked at better searching, filtering within information, the ability to use slicers to cut through more complex information, and being able to insert things like pictures and turn them easily into a smart art diagram so you can kind of relate different ideas together. In our case, we related our salespeople, the look of our salespeople, to the salesperson's sales data, so we could see kind of who's selling what within the organization. And also talked about co-authoring within Excel, which happens within the Excel web app, which also is giving you anywhere access to your work. You can read, you can edit those files, and again, you can co-author them with others within the context of the browser. We do have Excel Mobile 2010 that you can access from your Windows phone, and I'll give you some links here where you can learn more about these capabilities. Office.microsoft.com/getting started will take you to the primary Office page there, where you can just basically learn kind of what's new within the products. Office.microsoft.com/Excel is the Excel homepage. If you want to learn more about the web apps, they exist for Excel, obviously, but they also exist for Word, PowerPoint, and OneNote. And Office.microsoft.com/webapps will give you information on that, and Office.microsoft.com/mobile will give you information on the mobile version of the applications. I hope this was a beneficial screencast for you, that you learned a lot about what you can do with Excel 2010, and I thank you for your time.